Session 869, Deleted Portion. Good evening. Now, Ruber's body is reducing tensions. Those tensions were projected upon it by mental states of mind. In the last several days in particular, the tension level has been splendidly reduced. In Ruber's particular case, tense states of mind have been primarily responsible for his physical difficulty. Your behavior has been most helpful, and that behavior is the result of a new acknowledgement on your part of a belief system that you have intellectually accepted for some time, one that you are now beginning to emotionally understand and accept. People's actions, again, are primarily determined by their systems of belief, for those systems set up the patterns of behavior and define the potentials and limitations that are accepted usually as literal fact. In your culture, there are several built-in unfortunate circumstances in particular. The human personality is naturally a seeker of value fulfillment and creativity. It is not just, again, that man does not live by bread alone, but that his life is intimately bound up with his need for creative expression, his need to develop as an individual, and therefore to affect his world. The various numberless individual human abilities are part of your, say, gene pool as a species. So the drive to creatively use individual abilities is a spiritual and a biological necessity. The Freudian Darwinian dictates quite emphatically degrade man's capacity for greatness, for heroic action in those terms, and greatly devalue the entire meaning connected with an individual self. Psychology's emphasis upon the average no, as mentioned previously, made people think that one individual should almost be a carbon of any other individual. Idiosyncrasies were frowned upon, and the signs of creative ability were suspected in direct proportion to the strength of those abilities. People were put in a position of trying to use very important creative drives, believing that those drives were in fact unnatural, highly suspect, tied in with madness or insanity, or at the very least, that those abilities would lead to antisocial behavior. In that system of belief, many creative people have felt that safeguards were necessary, for they had been taught to fear their own abilities. In that framework of belief, Ruber felt justified in using physical symptoms as protection on both levels. They gave some protection even from inner spontaneity, so that the inner abilities would be regulated. And they protected him also from any derogatory behavior on the part of his fellow men in the world. That insidious mistrust of creative abilities is alarmingly dangerous to the society and frightening to the individual. The person is taught to mistrust the abilities he or she instinctively trusts the most. This is bound to lead to division. Creative people are not self-destructive, but if they sometimes appear so in the Western world, it is because of that division, the artificial barrier. Division means that such a person is taught to mistrust the very abilities that could most help bring about creative solutions. When you leave that framework of belief, such self-protecting defensive mechanisms are no longer necessary. Ruber is beginning to get that through his head. In the old system also, any physical problem is seen as naturally remaining or worsening. In our system of belief, you see, that is not the case. In the old system, you must almost fear personal improvement, lest you become self-deluded. Another irony in that old system, Rupert's body is responding because his main affiliation, man, is changing, so that actions necessary in the old system do not any longer apply. A note: all books do reach people in all walks of life. If you will forgive me, the excellent material means automatically, however, that many people with excellent intellects are naturally drawn to it, and some of the minds that will be important in following years are already acquainted with the material, or will be. A small note: